Good afternoon, ladies and gents. We're going to get kicked off in just a few minutes, but obviously as this is the first one that we're doing, I just wanted to make sure there were no technical hitches. So you get to look at me just while we wait for a few more to turn up. But thank you everybody that is already here and waiting, and I'll just give us a couple of minutes to make sure everybody else is here. So brilliant. Hope you're all having a good day. Still got a couple of minutes to go, so we'll just hang fire. So hopefully all being well, you should be able to see and hear us. There is a chat that you can access while we're going live, so if you do have any issues, please let me know. At the end of this, the video will be available to re-watch, so if you know people that want to see some of the information that we're sharing, it will be available on the Lincolnshire Safeguarding Children Partnership YouTube channel. There is another one tonight as well at 7:30, just for anybody that would like to access this live, but maybe a lunchtime one isn't best for them. So yeah, so we've still got a couple of minutes to go before we do get kicked off. Throughout this chat, I am going to encourage you to write questions in the chat if you can access it, and I'll look to answer those at the end. Most of these things that I'm telling you right now, I will be saying a couple of times throughout the session. I will introduce myself properly in a short amount of time, but again, we're just waiting just the last couple of minutes just to make sure that we're not starting too early. And once again, thank you everybody for turning up and listening to me. Hope you've all had a good lunch. Right, so just one more minute to go, ladies and gents, and then I can start talking about all the stuff that hopefully you're going to want to learn a little bit more about. So like I say, for people just joining, we are going to get kicked off in just a minute, and thank you everybody for joining us. Right, okay, ladies and gents, I am going to get kicked off now because I do appreciate that we're all very, very busy people, especially any parent at home who is currently homeschooling. I share your pain and I wish you the best of luck and hope this gives you a little bit of much needed respite. Thank you everybody for turning up and tuning into the first live stream of 2 that we're doing today. These are designed for parents and carers, for everybody interested in how they can keep their children safe at home when they go online. My name's Dan Horbrook. I'm the online safety officer that works in Lincolnshire. I've been in this role about 10 years. Most of my time is spent going around classrooms in primary, secondary and special schools, talking to children about how they can stay safe online. We do talk about some of the benefits because the internet's a cracking bit of kit, but we do talk about the risks, especially the ones that they can experience and the problems that they may be subject to in a digital world. I'm not here to scare anybody. I am going to be quite open and honest about some of the risks and some of the issues. I'm going to go through some of the things we do talk to children and young people about, and I'm going to signpost you to some places that you can get some further advice. For anybody just joining us, there is an online chat feature that's available through YouTube. I know some of you may have specific questions, things that you may want to know. If these aren't covered at all, please, as this goes on, please type it into the chat and I'll leave some time at the end to hopefully answer some of those questions. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to get kicked off and show you sort of some of the things that I like to talk to parents and carers about. So the first question that I always get asked is, what is online safety about? It used to be called e-safety many years ago, but online safety is a bit of a broader term, okay? What my job is to help children stay safe on the internet. And part of that is for them to actually experience the good side of what the internet has to offer. This is a quote that I always use with parents, carers, professionals, for anybody that I talk to try and help them understand where I'm coming from, where we're coming from when it comes to teaching internet safety. And the quote that I always use is from a study done in America many years, about 20 years ago now. But it talks about swimming pools, which sounds a little bit strange. The reason we talk about internet safety is because we want children to be safe as they grow in the digital world. And it's a bit like swimming pools. When we take our child to swim, they have lessons, there's lifeguards, there's rules, there's certain areas that they can and can't go. And we try and minimise the risk. We try and reduce the issues that may occur. And that's kind of what online safety is about. We're not here to tell you to kick your children off the internet. In fact, we'd encourage you not to, because that way it gives you an opportunity to teach them some of the skills that they're going to need in later life. Things like online fraud, privacy issues, they happen to us as adults. And when we're long gone, the internet is still going to be here. So online safety is a really important subject. But the issue that we have is that it's only been around for about 20, 30 years. And actually, most of us grew up in a very different world. So I think the important thing that I'm going to reference quite a few times through this session is the importance of conversations, of talking, of seeing issues as an opportunity to have a conversation with your child about the issues that they're experiencing. Okay. But one of the big things that we do find is that the majority of children and young people that we meet just know an immense amount more about the internet than we do. So what I've got on the screen is I've got a few of the popular apps that are used by children and young people. Now these are used by children and young people all over Lincolnshire of varying ages. And I just want to focus really quickly on some of the positives and some of the reasons why children are kind of drawn to these. I am just kind of giving you a couple of seconds just to try and see if there are any that you recognise. I'm pretty sure if you showed these 6 logos to your children, they'd know pretty much all of them, or have heard of most of them. Okay. Now, some of these do get used more than others, and I'll show you in a second how they're used, or how many students indicate that they kind of use it in Lincolnshire. But going across the top row, the big red play button is probably one that we're most familiar with, and that's an app called YouTube. YouTube has just an incredible amount of information on it, and kids are quite drawn to it because it's very short and sharp, and that you can literally find anything on YouTube. One of the positives to YouTube is the fact that you can learn any skill, and I'm pretty sure any parent or carer that is currently homeschooling has probably YouTubed what is a fronted adverbial, right, or how to do this maths problem. Yeah, things like that. There are great short, sharp bits of information that are available on there. The problem that we always have is most children that we meet now want to be YouTubers because it looks really easy to do. Okay, but it is a great resource, and especially during this current period where we are a little more isolated than normal, where we can't go out and do the things that we normally do. things like YouTube are great because they can learn new skills, whether it's magic tricks, origami, dance moves, gymnastics, anything that they're passionate about. There is something on YouTube for them. Okay. The next one along is an app called Snapchat. Snapchat is what we call ephemeral messaging. That's just a fancy way of saying when you share your picture to an individual, after a certain amount of time, it disappears. This is a very popular app. It's more popular than things like text messaging because you can just have a bit of a laugh. There's less pressure on you when you send a picture because you know after a certain amount of time the likelihood is people won't be able to see it anymore. It does lead us to some very interesting conversations in secondary school because when given the ability to share a picture that disappears after a certain amount of time, well, you can probably imagine the kind of conversation we're going to have in a little bit. But Snapchat is seen as a fun way to communicate and is incredibly popular because of things like the filters, where you can make yourself look different or add different backgrounds or animations. It's just a bit of fun. Now, the next one, for anybody that has primary age kids, will probably know as an app called Roblox. Roblox is just a big online game with lots of mini games in it. These mini games are created by people that enjoy using Roblox, and some of them are quite involved. A lot of kids talk about games like Arsenal or things like Imposter, which is very similar to sort of some other games. There's a game called Adopt Me, which again is very, very popular. And these allow children in a safer environment to interact with other gamers. There's no voice chat with Roblox, it is all text. There are different settings for it, so there are some games which are very appropriate for under 13s and some that are maybe more appropriate for older guys and girls, 14, 15, 16. It does have a feature where certain words like swear words, passwords, numbers, email addresses and web addresses cannot be shared in the text chat. There have been some issues recently around some of the content that is available through Roblox, through certain mini games within it. But we always say, if you see something inappropriate that you do not think should be there, always report it to Roblox. They are very, very keen to ensure that it is a safe environment for children and young people. Now, we're going to come to the bottom row, which are more apps that are, again, very, very popular amongst primary and secondary. TikTok is the musical note with the black background. For anybody that has teenage sons or daughters, this is the app where all the mini dances come from. So when you're walking in the supermarket with them and they're waving their arms about and doing weird stuff, that's probably come from TikTok. It is an app where the videos are very, very short, only about sort of 10-15 seconds long, and they're done like lip syncing or dancing to popular tracks. Some of these tracks are brilliant. It is just a bit of a laugh. Some of them may be not so appropriate, but apps like some of the others, apps like TikTok, do have levels of parental controls, but we'll talk about that as we go on. The next one is WhatsApp, which for anybody that has WhatsApp, groups are just a lifesaver and the bane of our life, because especially in schools, you'll always find a couple of bright sparks that just basically spam the group with emojis and animated GIFs. WhatsApp is a great communications tool. It is owned by Facebook, and I'm sure you've probably read in the news some of the issues that people have raised around how private it is. WhatsApp cannot see your messages. They cannot access anything that you send, but people do still have concerns about the privacy of it. So we always say, look, read the terms and conditions and make sure you understand what it can do before you use it. And the last one is a little known app called Instagram. It's generally where people share pictures of what they look like or what they're eating, both of which are a little bit strange at times. Instagram, again, is owned by Facebook, and it's all about photo sharing. So you take a picture of what you're doing, and the conversations are generally around those. It is a social network very similar to TikTok in that you have a profile. So your profile is a place that people can visit, and they can look at your pictures and write comments. It has a feature where you can see how many likes individuals get, which again can put a lot of teenagers under pressure because it's seen as a benchmark of popularity. But it can be quite a positive app, especially if you follow certain celebrities, because it's fun to see the kind of things that they are up to. Now, when it comes to Lincolnshire, these apps are incredibly popular amongst all age groups. And what we did is last year in January, we did a big survey, mainly around online bullying and sort of experiences that children and young people may have had in the virtual world or in the real world. And it was an anonymous survey to about 63 schools. We got well over 3,500 responses. And as you can see from some of the statistics here, they are used by a huge number of children and young people all across Lincolnshire. This is just secondary schools as well. If we went into primary schools, we'd probably find that things like online gaming, TikTok and YouTube, the numbers would probably be a little bit higher. But one of the problems we have as adults when it comes to these apps is that children and young people, they're just instinctively drawn to them. There are hundreds of games that we could mention, things like Fortnite or Among Us. There are loads of different apps as well, things that we've not covered, like Facebook. But again, one of the things that we can do as a parent or carer is try and keep technology as a regular conversation. Every single day when I am in schools, I always ask the question, what kind of apps are you using? What's the fun bit? What are the games that you enjoy? Because they will love telling us about it. Better yet, why not see it as an opportunity for us to learn the kind of world that our children are living in, the kind of things that they're doing. Instead of what is it, ask what does it do? Get your children to show you. Yeah. Or alternatively, all of these apps are free. You can set any of them up yourselves. And remember, if you don't share that information, it is not going to appear on the apps. And that is where our own personal safety kind of comes into place. Okay. Now, I could talk for hours and hours about the positive sides of technology because it is sometimes the bit about the internet that is lost when we're talking about the safety side. But I will signpost you some great places you can go to learn a little bit more about these and some of the privacy settings that are available in some of them. But I think the real reason that you're here and the bit of my job that keeps me the busiest is what we call online risk. Now, this is the bit of the session where I'm going to try really hard not to scaremonger. I'm not here to scare or frighten anybody. Yeah, remember, internet safety is like learning to ride a bike, like swimming. Things can go wrong, and they sometimes do go wrong. Okay, but having an awareness of these can sometimes help us to keep our children a little bit safer. Okay, so what I've done is I've kind of divided them up into the three main issues that we do spend a lot of our time talking about with professionals, with schools, and with children and young people. Okay, and I think it's really important to remember that some of these will have a very different impact on children, depending on their age, their understanding and their resilience. Okay, some of these are a greater risk to older age groups. Some of them are a greater risk and have a bigger impact on younger age groups. Okay, some of this you may think, well, my child's only 7 or 8 years old. Some of these may not affect them because of the restrictions that you've put in place, the way that you're keeping your children safe. But I just want to give you an overview of the kind of conversations that we do have in school and the kind of things that we think it's important for you to know. Okay, so I'm going to try and choose my words incredibly carefully, and I always remember, if there is anything that you are concerned about, there are places you can go for help. And if you do have any questions as we go, please stick it in the chat, and I've left time at the end to have a conversation with you about that. Okay, but the first thing that I kind of want to talk about is something called grooming. Now, grooming is the main reason that I have a job because it can cause significant harm to children and young people. It is a behaviour, it's a process. It's not isolated to just children. and young people. Grooming is something that can occur to adults who may not be in healthy relationships. Grooming is the word we kind of use to discuss the behaviour around things like radicalisation. Okay, but grooming, in essence, is building a relationship with an individual with a view to exploiting them. Now, when we talk about grooming, we're talking about sexual grooming. That is where an individual online is using a relationship, either positive or negative, in order to try and get a young person to do or share something that may not be age appropriate and that may cause them significant issues or upset. Okay, grooming can have quite an impact on your mental health, no matter how old you are. And it is something that is a concern, especially given that the internet will allow us to talk to hundreds, thousands, millions of people, all from the comfort of our own home. In fact, this behaviour can occur at any kind of time online through any kind of platform, which is why it's important that we do talk to our children about how this manifests and the kind of things that they look for. Okay. Now, one of the things that we do talk to children about is stranger danger. Now, we feel that maybe as a term, stranger danger is not the appropriate way to have a conversation with children on the internet about individuals that might try and trick them. I always give as an example a time when I was in a primary school asking a load of reception children to tell me what a stranger is, and this sweet four-year-old girl right at the front of the class put her hand up and said, a stranger is somebody you don't know who's going to kidnap and kill you in a white van. Now, obviously, picking that apart, there are a few issues that we do have with that. One of them being that I'm pretty sure most van drivers are not dangerous people, especially if it's a white van. But it does kind of show the way that we do talk to children about strangers, and it is very black or white. Now, the girl was right. A stranger is somebody you don't know. Now, are they dangerous? That's a different conversation. Okay. So what we try and do is we try and talk to children about how to spot a good or a bad stranger. Because if you asked your child to draw a picture or describe what a dangerous stranger on the internet would be, most of them would probably say it would be a man in his 50s or 60s. And actually, that's ignoring the fact that some individuals that do trick children and young people online are much, much younger and can be male or female. Okay, so the thing that we have been sharing in schools for the past couple of years is the tactics that are used. So I want to show you a bit of an example of some of the chat logs that we use in secondary schools. Now, these chat logs are taken, these examples are taken from a resource called Play Like Share. It has been created by an organisation called CEOP, C-E-O-P. And that stands for, it's a bit long-winded, the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre. They are a police-led organisation based down in London, and their remit, their aim is to reduce the sexual exploitation of children and young people, both online and offline. Now, what we try and talk to children about is the fact that on the internet, everybody lies. Most of the apps that I showed you right at the start have a 13 age limit for you to use them. Things like Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, you should be 13 or over to legally share your personal information. Now, that doesn't mean that they're going to get in trouble with the police. It means the apps will get in trouble if they are knowingly storing the personal information of under 13s. Okay. So what we find is that children and young people from a very young age have been trained a little to lie about their age. So actually, when somebody talks to them, it is almost impossible for them to know how old that individual is. So what we say is, well, these are the 4 things that should set alarm bells running in your head. If you're talking to an individual online, things like flattery can make you feel really nice, but it's always the question, how would you feel if a stranger in the street walked up to you and started saying nice things to you? Would it make you feel comfortable or uncomfortable? And actually, a lot of them say, oh yeah, that'd be a little bit weird. Things like bribery are some of the quite important ones to keep an eye out for. This can happen to adults. Online fraud is a massive, massive issue, both in Lincolnshire and all over the UK. But we always say, why? Why would somebody want something? Why would somebody offer you something? What do they want in return? And actually, things like bribery, without going down the sexual exploitation route, things like bribery have occurred on games like Fortnite, where individuals have used the virtual currency, the V-Bucks, in Fortnite, which allow you to buy different bits and pieces. They've used the lure of that. I'll give you 200, 300, 4,000, whatever, but all you've got to do is just give me a password. I'll unlock these cards for you in FIFA, but you've just got to give me your password. So I always say, if something is too good to be true, or sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. Now, things like threats are where the harm actually occurs. Now, this is quite a significant issue, because we all worry about how people perceive us, and especially from a much younger age. These children, whether they're in primary or secondary school, they do feel the pressure of their social standing, and things like Instagram, things like the number of followers you have, the number of likes your videos and posts get, are used as a benchmark to gauge your popularity amongst your peers. Now, somebody threatening to involve your parents, so say for example, I've got TikTok but my grown-ups don't know about it, if I worry about my parents getting involved, then actually that's going to make me more reluctant to ask for help. If somebody blames me and says it's my fault, I might be quite likely to believe that. And that's going to put me in quite a difficult place, because by people threatening you, you may think, well, will I lose out on bits and pieces? Will it be that if I tell somebody that I'm the one that's going to get in trouble? And we have to reassure children and young people that if somebody is threatening them, the reason they are trying to do that is because they don't want them to disclose to an adult, a trusted individual. And that's probably one of the difficult battles that we do have, is getting a child or a young person to understand that if they ask for help, they're not going to get in trouble. Now, the last thing, again, going back to things like the V-Bucks, things like people offering you something for nothing, there are a lot of issues around people just making stuff up. I'll give you this, I'll give you that, yeah. And again, like I said a few minutes ago, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But remember, as an adult, some of these things can affect you. We are seeing right now people receiving emails, phone calls about the current vaccinations that are being offered. If you click here, if you sign in here, if you ring this number, we can offer you this service and bypass all the queues. People saying, well, you've got a tax rebate, or if you bought something off PayPal, well, actually, you've got a £400 PayPal refund. I always say, if somebody sends you a link, always double check that it is actually from them. And again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Okay. Now, there is something that I'm going to have to talk about next, which is probably one of the weirdest conversations that we are probably going to have over the course of this live stream. And it is the issue that is probably most prevalent in secondary schools, and it does relate to sexual exploitation. The bit that I want to talk about is what we call sexting, or the sharing of naked pictures or videos online. Now, this is where people start getting a little bit uncomfortable, because it is a difficult conversation. How do you raise with your child or your, the young people in your life? How do you talk to them about naked image sharing? Now, this is a conversation that I have on quite a regular basis in secondary schools. This is not a conversation we have in primary. We talk about how to share appropriate things in a very different way. But what we do find is that many teenagers, whether they are sharing the images or not, do see this behaviour as something that does happen quite regularly. Now, sexting causes harm because it is quite an intimate and embarrassing thing to do. I mean, talking to your children about sex can be quite embarrassing, and they can get a little bit weird and uncomfortable about it. So actually, it's something that is seen as a bit of a taboo subject. So actually, when we do talk to our children about this, you can find they're going to be incredibly reluctant. Now, we do go in schools, and when we talk to year 9 and 10 students, sexting is one of the conversations that we have in every single session, because it is a really, really important one to have. Sexting, if you're under the age of 18, is against the law. The law says very, very clearly, and this law's been around since the late 1970s, an indecent image of an under 18 is illegal to take, it's illegal to keep, and it's illegal to share. The consequences can be quite severe, but the police do deal with these on a case-by-case basis. So I don't want you to feel that if you know a child or young person that may be involved with this, that may have experienced this, I don't want them to think that they're going to go straight to jail. But the law is there to protect them. And what we find online is that naked picture sharing has become a normal behaviour. Anybody that uses things like online dating apps will find that there is a certain amount of pressure that's put on an individual to share these images. And if you don't, then there's obviously, a lot of names, a lot of coercion and pressure that occurs. And actually, teenagers feel that same level of pressure. Now, the worry is, not only are there individuals on the internet that might encourage them to share these kind of pictures, but this is a behaviour that does happen within year groups, amongst peers, especially given the current restrictions that are in place, where it is difficult for them to see each other in person. So as difficult as this conversation may be, there are resources out there to help you. We do go into schools, the Stay Safe Partnership, we go into schools and we do talk about this, and we are very straightforward. But for you, it's a little more difficult. The Child Exploitation Online Protection Centre, CEOP, and I will share a link to their website at the end of the session. They do have a set of videos that you can watch as a parent and carer to try and help you understand how to talk to your children and young people about this. The video is called Naked Selfies, a guide for parents and carers, which, very interesting title. It is a free video that you can watch. It's set in 4 parts, and it just tries to give you an understanding about why these images might be shared, what the harm can be, but more importantly, how to start a conversation with your child or young person about this. This is a behaviour that we see in celebrity culture quite a bit, so maybe that's the way to kind of tackle it. To discuss, how this individual would feel if these images were to be shared, and actually, would they be happy for members of their family to see it? Because as we all understand, once you've shared something on the internet, it's not always a straightforward process of getting rid of it. Okay. Now, I did mention an organisation called CEOP, and I know that some of you are probably feeling a little concerned about the well-being of your children. But one of the things that we do promote in schools, and schools are very good at promoting, is avenues of support, places you can go to get a bit of help. Now, going to the local police station, talking to your local PC or PCSO, ringing Lincolnshire Police would be a great place to start. The police are here to protect us. And if we think our child is at risk of significant harm, the best thing to do is just get some advice from them. Let them know, okay? But sometimes you may not know that your child is experiencing this. So what we try and do is we try and encourage children and young people to disclose themselves. And the organisation called CEOP has a website. Now that website is called thinkyouknow.co.uk. And on that website is a big red report abuse button. This button can be used to disclose to CEOP that they are at risk of harm. They will ask for information about the individual that they're talking to, the kind of concerns that they have. Okay, but it is a vital resource, because it means that no matter where they are, who they're with, whether they're on their own or not, there is a place that they can go to report the kind of behaviour that they are experiencing on the internet. Okay, now I do want to move on, because I do appreciate that we do all have very limited times in our day, and as you probably can tell, I can talk about this quite a lot. So I do want to move away from the grooming aspect for the time being, but I will share some simple rules at the end to try and help you keep your child safe a little bit more. Just some simple things that we can do to try and keep them safe from these individuals. Okay, but the next thing I want to move on to is bullying. Now, bullying can take many, many forms, and it is something that I know a lot of adults that I meet, a lot of people that I know have experienced this in their lifetime. It can cause significant problems, both now and in the future. And the problem with the internet is that any individual, through certain apps, can now say horrible, mean, unpleasant things to you. They can target you in a way that when we were kids, it was impossible. The thing that we do find with online bullying is that sometimes it can occur from complete and utter strangers. We use the word internet troll, which is basically just another way of saying an individual that feels that they are duty bound to correct people, to challenge people's opinions, and to basically tell everybody that they're not right. But this can also happen in peer groups, especially through things like online gaming. And in primary schools, we do see a lot of issues around people getting upset and angry when playing Fortnite, FIFA and Minecraft. We do see WhatsApp group chats causing massive issues because people will start saying horrible stuff and then everybody picks a side and it all gets a little bit out of hand. Now, what we can tell you is that actually there is a number of children and young people in Lincolnshire that have experienced online bullying. Okay, now the bit that I feel thankful for is the fact that 86% of children and young people that we asked in Lincolnshire, and this is secondary schools, have not experienced online bullying. But actually that 13.8% is still a significant number. And actually they should feel supported. They should feel that there are things that they can do and help that we can offer. Now, when it comes to online bullying, what we try and promote in primary and secondary schools is just some very, very simple tips, okay? And I'm just going to share these with you right now. These are the 5 things that we do try and encourage children, young people, adults, and everybody to do if they're online and they experience some level of abuse. Now, the top and the bottom one of those are the most difficult ones. The other 3 are quite straightforward. And in fact, a lot of children and young people know that. Now, the top one, the try not to respond, is actually one of the most difficult things that we would ever ask anybody to do. Anybody that's ever been on any news website, anybody that has seen comments from public posts on Facebook or comments on Instagram will know that actually a lot of people can be quite argumentative. And a lot of people do have a go at you because of your opinions, because of your views, whatever. We could use a lot of terms, internet trolls, keyboard warriors, but I think the important thing to do is that we are very desensitized when it comes to communicating with individuals publicly. Because we can't see them on the screen, we do treat them in a very, very different way. And we say things in a way that we probably wouldn't say to their face. The issue with the trying not to respond is that normally that's what the other person wants. If they are saying something mean or horrible to you, what they actually want is a response. They want to know and understand that they've upset you, that their words have had an impact. So actually, trying to ignore that, trying not to reply, is by far one of the most difficult things we can ever do. And actually, most adults do struggle with that as well as children and young people, because the emotion takes over. What we always try and say to children and young people is just take a step away. Just take a pause for a few seconds. If you find you're getting angry, if you find you're getting cross, just put that controller, close down that app, shut off that screen and just go do something else for just a couple of minutes. And then when you come back, you'll find that you are less likely to respond. Okay. Now the next 3, really, really straightforward. Saving copy. This is both a good and a bad thing, because once you save a copy of something, you have it for an incredibly long time. So if it's something embarrassing, which of course people do, they save embarrassing posts in order to reshare, saving copy can sometimes be a negative thing. But actually, for a child or young person, saving a copy means that they can then show somebody. They can show somebody and say, this is what's occurring to me. Now, it gets a bit more difficult with online gaming, But we do have kind of a top tip for that. And I can't take credit for this. This is something that was shared by a parent a few years ago about how they managed to collect some evidence on a video game. And it just involves using your mobile phone. If somebody is having a go at you, especially if it's somebody in your peer group, what you can do is unplug the headphones from your game controller so that all the voice chat comes through the speakers on the TV. Then all you do is pick up your phone, push that record button, and take a video of what they're saying. Their gamer tag will appear and everything they're saying will be as clear as day coming through those speakers. But this gives somebody an opportunity to show, to evidence what is actually occurring. Now, the next two, I am thankful to say, reporting and blocking are the two things that most children we speak to, they know about. Yeah, they know how to report individuals to the apps, which is an important thing to do, because if somebody's doing it to you, then it's quite likely they're going to be doing it to some other people as well. And actually, the more these individuals are reported, the more steps an app can take in order to prevent this happening in the future. It may be just a message that they send to say, look, don't do this again. They may disable certain features. On games like FIFA, they will turn off your voice chat if you're a little too sweary, because there are a lot of younger guys and girls that enjoy that online experience and they don't want them to have a negative experience. Now, blocking is by far the easiest thing to do. Once you push that block button, you can't hear the other individual. Once they are blocked, you can never play games with them again. And I'm really thankful to say the majority of children and young people we speak to in school know how to block. Some of them may have blocked their parents or carers, but that's a conversation for another time. But if you don't know how to do it, then just simply use Google. How do I block on Snapchat? How do I block on Instagram? How do I block on Xbox or PlayStation? And there'll be a video or a guide or text that will talk you through that process. But that, like riding a bike, is one of the first skills that you should teach a child or young person. How to block somebody on the app. Now, the last one, obviously said, one of the difficult ones, talking to somebody. And actually, a lot of children and young people won't disclose when they're experiencing negative behaviours online. They won't talk to us if they're having a bad time because they're worried. They fear that if they tell us somebody's being mean to me, somebody's bullying me, that we as their grown-ups, as their guardians, will take that technology away. That's why it's really important that we encourage our children to understand that talking to somebody isn't a bad thing. And whether it's us, an auntie, uncle, a member of staff at school, telling somebody about this behaviour can actually lift a bit of that burden. So always make sure that we don't remove the technology. It is not our child or young person's fault if somebody else is being mean, and actually blocking them means that they can still have fun and they don't need to worry about that other individual. Okay. Now, there is one last thing that I do want to talk about before I do give you some top tips, and it is quite a broad subject, so I'm going to try and make it as short as I can, because I do appreciate you've all been listening to me harp on for the last 40 minutes, and like I say, it is very, very much appreciated. But the last thing is just a little bit about content, okay? Now, we all know that the internet was created for our adults first, and children are just lucky enough to be able to access it as well. Things like mobile phones, things like Facebook, things like YouTube were not created with children in mind. Initially, they were created for adults. So a lot of the protection that is in place has kind of come after the fact. Now, when it does come to content, I think there's some really important things we need to think about, and that is challenging what is normal. Now, children can look at certain influencers, famous people, and see the behaviour and see the way they present their lives as normal. A lot of people talk about how sad it makes them feel when they look at kind of how enjoyable life is for other people, how much fun these celebrities are having. Kids want to be YouTubers, not because they think it's going to be a fun experience, because people make it look easy and because they look like they're making loads and loads of money. So I think it's really important that we have a conversation with our children about what actually is normal. Conversations with older guys and girls around the use of adult imagery, things like naked picture sharing, which is promoted amongst adults. Well, is it really appropriate for somebody younger than under 18 to kind of be doing that? But one of the other issues that we have with content is not just the sexualized content. There are some inappropriate things and upsetting things that children can see. At the moment, we see a lot of schools contacting us because children have seen inappropriate content that is scary, that has worried them or frightened them. And actually, do we know what our children are accessing online? One of the more fascinating statistics that I do want to share is about how easily accessible the internet is to our children. One of the questions we used to ask is how many children have access to their mobile phone when they're in their bedroom. Now, last year in January, that was seen as a bit of an issue. But actually, we asked secondary students how many of them access their mobile phone, their tablet or their laptop when they go to bed. And what we find is a huge number. 2 out of every 3. Okay. Now, this causes us a few issues because when they're sat down next to us, we can keep a watchful eye on the kind of things that they see. But if they're upstairs watching YouTube, if they're accessing Netflix, if they're watching things on Facebook, are all the adverts they're going to see, is all the content that their favourite people share, is it going to be age appropriate? Which, of course, is one of our biggest problems when it comes to managing technology. So what I wanted to share is a website called internetmatters.org. You may have seen some of their adverts on TV recently, and what they do, one of the fantastic bits that they have, is guides on setting up parental controls. Whether you want to limit their access to videos on Netflix, on the 5 on demand, the 4 on demand, on the iPlayer, if you want to limit their time on their mobile phone, on their Xbox, on their PlayStation, you can set time limits. If you want to know how to restrict content on YouTube, there are guides on this website that will help you. This is by far one of the best sites that we can possibly share because the amount of information for parents and carers is just huge. So what we always try and encourage is take a bit of time. Parental controls can be straightforward. Some of your internet service providers will restrict content for you. It's just a case of logging into their website using your user details, whether it's Sky or Virgin or whoever, and you can restrict the content that your kids can see. If it's an Android or an Apple phone, again, you can restrict their access to apps through the App Store. If you have a younger child, 3, 4, 5, 6 years old, and they just want to watch Peppa Pig videos on YouTube, then why not try something like YouTube Kids? And again, all this information is going to be found on this website. Okay, so internetmatters.org. Now, we are coming to the end of this live stream, and I do want to say thank you so much. I have been threatening to share some top tips with you for the last 45 minutes. So for everybody that stayed on, thank you for putting up with me up until this point. But I think some of these things that I've kind of already alluded to or mentioned, but I just want to set out some simple ground rules that you can kind of set in your home. Now, one of the things that we can do to try and help our child stay safe is to help them, to get them to help us agree some simple ground rules in the house. Set time limits. Set a list of apps that they can use. Set a list of personal information that they can or can't share. Set rules on privacy settings. Yes, you can have Instagram, but it's a private account and you've got to add your gran. Some really simple rules can help. But one of the things that I think is most important and probably the hardest one to do is to keep technology away from closed doors. If they are in their bedroom with a mobile phone, with a tablet, with an Xbox or a PlayStation, do we know who they're talking to? And if somebody is putting pressure on them, if somebody is being mean and horrible, if they're in their bedroom on their own, are they ever going to know? Would they be afraid to tell us because they feel that actually we would have a go at them because they didn't come to us before? So what we always say is have some simple rules in the house about where a mobile device can be taken and when it can be used. No taking your phone to the toilet because they'd be there for half an hour. Does a mobile device need to go into a bathroom? And if they do want to use it in their bedroom, just have an open door policy. It's when doors are closed that individuals on the internet will know that they're in a position to be exploited. And actually, if they're downstairs in the living room and you're sat next to them, and a stranger on the internet says, "So who's with you?" they can answer honestly, and that individual is less likely to try and put pressure on them to cause significant harm. Okay. Privacy settings are absolutely vital, and parental controls are there to help us. That's much easier with guys and girls that are younger, and not so easy when they get to 14, 15, 16, because anybody that's got teenage kids will know, well, they know everything, don't they? Yeah? But have a conversation and try and promote the idea that keeping your personal information private isn't necessarily a bad thing. They may want to be famous influencers or YouTubers, but until they're 18, nobody's going to give them any money for it. So why not keep their private life private? Yeah, the number of followers that they have is not an indication of anything. And the only people that actually care about how many followers others have are the ones generally with the most. But the last one, and the most important one, let's keep talking about it. Let's keep technology at the front of our conversations, especially during this current lockdown situation. Let's try and drop it into conversation. So what games are you playing? What apps are you using? What do you love about it? What don't you enjoy about it? The more we keep them talking, the easier it's going to be to them to tell us when things go wrong. There are, though, a couple of places that we can signpost both our children to and ourselves. Now, Think You Know, as I've said, is the platform for the Child Exploitation and Online Protection Centre. If you go to thinkyouknow.co.uk, they have a website that has information videos for all ages and a special section for parents and carers. Yeah, it's not just about the big red button. Internet Matters has just a wealth of information on all manner of parental controls and issues. But some of the places that we do direct children, young people and young adults are places they can get help and support for their mental well-being. Childline is by far the most important number that a child or young person can know. Because while as parents and carers we'd like to think they're going to come to us, actually sometimes they might feel embarrassed, they might be worried about how they're going to react. And Childline is always there for them, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether it's Christmas Day, Boxing Day, Easter Sunday, 2 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock at night. There's always somebody at the end of the phone on Childline. And you can go online and talk to people through their website, so they don't necessarily have to call. Most kids know it because they probably threatened us with it at some point in our life, but at least they know what the number is should it come to that. Samaritans is also a very good place for young adults to go. Childline, the name, can sometimes put older guys and girls off. Yeah, Childline will deal with individuals up to 18 years old, but we've all had bad days and we all struggle, especially at the moment with our mental health. And it's really important, if they can't talk to us, that either Childline or Samaritans, they remember we'll always be there to talk to them. And Young Minds is a website dedicated especially to young people, young adults' mental health. They've got loads of things around mindfulness, about ways that we can manage our emotions, which, given the issues that are going on at the moment, is a really, really vital thing to do. Okay, so let's try and keep those channels, those conversations open. Now, I am going to move on to my last slide, which of course is the question section. I am going to at this point say thank you so much for every single person that has joined us for this first live stream. I hope you've enjoyed it, and most importantly, I hope the content has been what you wanted. There will be an opportunity to give some feedback. We are going to ask for people to kind of share their views on how they found this live stream. There'll be a link that will appear in the chat to a form on Google Forms. Please fill that in and be honest. If you've learned something, that's fantastic. If you haven't, please just tell me what you want to know, so that we, if we ever do this again, which, you know, fingers crossed we are hopeful we can do, that we can ensure that we're talking about the things that you want to know. I am going to, while I am here, I am just going to keep this last slide up around some of the links and some of the places you can go just while I talk. I do apologise, there is about a 30-40 second delay from me talking to you seeing what I'm saying. So if anybody is writing questions, then please bear with me while I get around to answering them. But if you don't have any questions, if there isn't anything that you want to know, then once again, please check out some of these. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We will be back on 7:30. It will be the same content. It's not going to be different. So I will talk about the same things. So if you think that there's somebody that would benefit from seeing it, if you missed something, joined halfway through, and you just want to catch the start, please join us then. I am going to stop talking and sign off in a couple of minutes. I am just going to wait on here and just see if anybody has anything that they do want to share. But if not, I can't say it enough. I just appreciate your time. And thank you so much. And for every parent and carer out there that's currently homeschooling, just I'm with you on this one. Just the best of luck. And let's just keep talking. So thank you very much, everybody. I will sign off in a couple of minutes. Brilliant. And getting a comment through. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. You're right, it is a bit of a minefield. I hope I've not opened up that rabbit hole any more than it needed to. But it's not a straightforward subject. I would talk to you for like the next 4 hours, but I'm pretty sure nobody wants that right now. But thank you, Miss Little Legs. Brilliant, thank you very much. These videos will be on our the Lincolnshire Safeguarding Children Partnership YouTube channel. So don't worry if you don't want to sit through and you want to fast forward past bits. Once this stream ends, I believe it'll be ready in sort of about an hour or so. So you can always catch it this afternoon. Brilliant. Fantastic. There's still people watching, which is great. Hoping that some of you are writing some furious notes and checking out some of these website links. I should also point out that the Lincolnshire Safeguarding Children Partnership, the LSCP, does have this YouTube channel. There are some videos that we have created over the past few years around keeping children and young people safe, sort of around parental controls and some of the issues that are being experienced. I should probably point out for anybody that has nursery age kids, there is a video on there called the Funny Tummy Song, which we made for nursery age guys and girls. Is done with the Safer Stay Safe Partnership team, so myself and my two colleagues. So if you, as an adult, if you want a bit of a laugh, it is on there. But if you have children's on there, it's Macton signed. It's a bit fun. It's only about a minute long, and it can just teach them some really simple skills. I will say thank you, Neil. I am open to TV offers. But again, I enjoy doing this a little too much. So I'm going to leave this on there. I will sit here until everybody's gone and shut off the stream. In about 3 or 4 minutes, just to make sure everybody's got enough time if they want to ask a question or if they want to take some notes. Brilliant. Don't forget to send us some feedback as well, ladies and gents. Would be much appreciated. Alright, I'll remain on here for the last minute. I will say, however, just before I do go, this chat will be open just for a couple of minutes after the session ends. If you do have any questions you want them addressing, I'll try and make sure that I include that in the 7:30 stream. So if you wanted to know, I'm not going to make you watch all of me again, but you're more than welcome to. It will be available on the LSCP YouTube channel. So brilliant. I am going to probably take this opportunity, ladies and gents, as much as I'd like to sit here and just chunter on for the next 5 minutes. I'll probably take this opportunity to turn my camera off and to log out for a little bit. Once again, for everybody still on the stream, thank you so much for giving your time and listening to what we've been sharing today. 7:30 is the next one, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we will see you soon. Goodbye.